Tardnisha. The name alone could curdle milk. It's a name whispered in hushed tones, a name synonymous with leeching, with mooching, with a level of shameless dependency that could make a tick blush. She drifted through life like a rogue dust bunny, clinging to the first sock of stability that crossed her path. Man, woman didn't matter. A roof was a roof, and Tardnisha was allergic to rent. Marriage, for her, wasn't a sacred bond. It was an all-you-can-eat buffet of someone else's hard work and good graces. Tardnisha was a black hole of need, sucking the joy out of everything and everyone she touched. Her currency wasn't laughter or love, but complaint. A never-ending symphony of woe is me played on repeat, each note a finely honed instrument of guilt designed to extract maximum sympathy from her weary audience. And oh, how they wearied. Friends, lovers, even the poor cashier who accidentally gave her an extra nickel. All felt the crushing weight of Tardnisha's insatiable neediness. But Tardnisha didn't see herself as a parasite. Oh no. In her mind, she was the victim. The world was out to get her, a cruel and unjust system rigged against her success. Never mind her own complete lack of effort or accountability, it was always someone else's fault, always some external force keeping her down. And the truly tragic part? People bought it, hook, line and sinker. They fell for the act, mistaking her carefully cultivated helplessness for vulnerability, her calculated whining for genuine suffering. They opened their homes, their wallets, their very hearts to this emotional vampire, only to find themselves drained and depleted, their reserves of empathy sucked dry. If Tardnisha's personality was a symphony of despair, her physical appearance was the album cover. Picture, if you will, a creature with the perpetually surprised expression of a startled hamster. Her eyes, oversized and watery, bulged from their sockets like a pair of mismatched marbles glued onto a melting wax figure. They darted around frantically, forever searching for the next mark, the next unsuspecting soul to exploit. Her limbs, long and gangly, moved with the awkward grace of a newborn giraffe on roller skates. Her walk was less a walk and more a series of lurching stumbles, a chaotic dance of near-miss collisions with furniture and unsuspecting bystanders. It was as if her body itself was a physical manifestation of her internal disarray, a living, breathing embodiment of dysfunction. Her hygiene, much like her work ethic, was suspect at best. A perpetual air of stale cigarette smoke and desperation clung to her like a second skin. Her hair, a greasy, tangled mess, looked like it hadn't seen a brush since the Clinton administration. Clothing, always ill-fitting and stained with the remnants of forgotten meals, hung from her gaunt frame like discarded drapes on a coat rack. But the piece de resistance, the cherry on top of this sundae of sadness, was her voice. High-pitched and nasal, it grated on the nerves like nails on a chalkboard. Every word was a whine, every sentence dripping with a cloying, syrupy sweetness that could induce a diabetic coma. It was the sound of 1,000 neglected chores, 1,000,000 broken promises, a lifetime of missed opportunities, all rolled into one grating package. Tardnisha was a master manipulator, a virtuoso of victimhood. She could sniff out a bleeding heart from a mile away, her antennae twitching with the promise of an easy mark. She'd swoop in, all doe-eyed and vulnerable, spinning tales of woe designed to tug at the heartstrings and loosen purse strings. Her sob stories were legendary, each one more outlandish than the last. The landlord was always trying to evict her, despite never paying rent on time. Her car was always on the verge of breaking down, usually after she'd pawned off the engine parts for spare change. And don't even get her started on her health problems, a veritable laundry list of ailments, both real and imagined, designed to elicit maximum sympathy and, of course, free medical advice. And the worst part? People fell for it. Every single time. They'd open their homes and their wallets, eager to help this poor, unfortunate soul. They'd lend her money, offer her a place to stay, even go so far as to do her laundry and make her meals. All the while, Tardnisha would just sit back and soak it up, basking in the glow of their misplaced generosity. But as soon as the well of generosity ran dry, as soon as her victims realized they were being played for fools, Tardnisha would vanish. She'd disappear faster than a plate of free cookies at a Weight Watchers meeting, leaving behind a trail of broken promises, empty wallets, and a lingering sense of betrayal. She was the human equivalent of a bad check, all promise and no substance, leaving a trail of financial and emotional ruin in her wake. You'd think with a track record like hers, Tardnisha would be a lone wolf, a social pariah shunned by all who crossed her path. But you'd be wrong. Oh, so very wrong. Because Tardnisha was a master at surrounding herself with enablers, a veritable posse of well-meaning but woefully misguided individuals who fueled her dysfunction. These weren't bad people, not inherently. They were just susceptible. They fell for her act, hook, line and sinker, mistaking her carefully cultivated helplessness for genuine vulnerability. They bought into her sob stories, her excuses, her constant refrains of, "I'm trying, I really am." They wanted to believe the best in her, saw the potential for good buried beneath the layers of laziness and manipulation. And then there was her mother. Oh, Mama. Now, Mama was a piece of work. Loud, opinionated, and about as subtle as a foghorn in a library. She was the human embodiment of a migraine, and she couldn't stand Tardnisha, not one bit. She saw right through her daughter's act, knew her better than she knew herself. But here's the kicker, she still took her in, every single time. Why? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was a twisted sense of maternal obligation. Or maybe, just maybe, Mama secretly enjoyed the drama, the chaos that followed Tardnisha like a bad smell. Whatever the reason, one thing was for sure. Tardnisha's relationships were a tangled mess of enabling, resentment, and a whole lot of yelling. It was a dysfunctional circus, a never-ending cycle of drama and despair, with Tardnisha at the center, pulling the strings like a puppet master of misery.